I don't know if it's summer or what, but I woke up hot today.
You know what's great about this is
usually it's you.
Here's the thing that's ironic. And I do not think this is a lack of self-awareness, I hope. But maybe you're going to laugh at me and that's fine. Everybody can tell me the truth. I definitely operate, I think, always ready to be annoyed and always ready to shit talk. But true anger is not something I have a very long fuse. Like if I'm angry, like really, it has taken me a while to get there. And then it's like, good luck getting me back fucking down. Right.
Yeah. I think there is a misconception online because I think you like to tussle. Like,
oh, I love it. But
listen,
that's not stressful for me.
Jen
I enjoy it.
To spar.
Yeah, that's fun for me. And that's it. It's very different for people because so many.
But I think online, like the tone is such that like, I think a lot of people don't understand, Jen, that you're just fucking around.
I'm having a good time, everyone. I'm a little bored.
And then people are, I'll often get a text from somebody who's like, Jen is really upset on Twitter. And I'm like, about what? What of the 42 things that she has been in my texts about today?
No, Jen's not really upset about it.
Did
Jen
she
just
take
likes
to Twitter? And my answer is always like screenshot, question mark. And then when it comes, I'm like, oh yeah, she's fine. Like
she's not upset at all. And I mean, I just am that way. I just don't find that. I don't know if it's that I had two brothers. I think it's just like embedded in the system of my family in some ways. I don't know if it's this, that I really have no idea, but like it takes a lot to make me really angry and like hot. And then, like I said, good luck. I'm going to be there for a while and you should probably stay the fuck away from me. I'm a nuclear reactor, Sarah.
You are.
Where are the control rods?
But you're my nuclear reactor.
That's right.
Welcome, everyone, to Fated Mates. I'm Sarah McLean. I read romance novels and I write them.
And I'm Jennifer Prokop. Chernobyl is my favorite nuclear reactor, everybody.
I mean, isn't that kind of everyone's favorite? I mean, favorite is a curious choice of words in that, but...
a romance reader and editor. Okay, so Sarah, why did you wake up hot?
Okay, well, so I don't know what... Honestly, we're so far ahead. I'm so proud of us in recording that I have no idea when this episode drops, people are going to be like, Sarah was so hot. It's going to have been like 6 weeks ago.
Yeah. Great.
So unlike Jen, I do have a fuse that I often just like let simmer. And if it simmers for an overnight period, then I'm hot.
Yeah.
Like,
okay.
I'm like, I'll see it and I'll be like, oh, that's kind of annoying. And then I just sort of like, it either disappears in like the next 10 minutes or a minute. Well, I saw this thread and I do feel like part of the challenge is that Threads is new. And so now it feels like everybody somehow needs to do a bunch of learning on Threads that we have. It feels like this is, as I've said before, settled law. Like it's Twitter settled law. Like now we're in Romancelandia Threads, it's like no one ever learned, like no one ever paid attention to what we were talking about over there on Twitter.
Yeah, well, I think that there's also a lot of new people in the Romancelandia pool that have, like...
They never came to Twitter. They're like new to Threads. They're new to like verbal sparring Romancelandia because they were on Instagram and now they're like learning a new world. Anyway, largely, I don't give a shit about any of this anymore. Like, it just, I feel old and like, I've already taught, HEAs are settled law. Like, all this shit, it like, call it romance or don't call it romance, but it's not my fucking problem if readers get pissed at you when you call it romance and it's not.
Sure, that's how I feel too.
And it's like, I could get into these conversations or I could, revise my book. But yesterday, part of the challenge with Threads actually for me is that it doesn't seem to be organized in any like reasonable way.
Can I tell you, I heard something really interesting about this 19-hour delay. Because everything is 18 hours old on Thread.
It really does look really old, right?
Okay, yeah, here's why. Apparently. I don't know if this is true, but it sounds true, so I like it. That's how thinking goes these days, so sorry, everyone. One of the hallmarks of Twitter is it's breaking news. Something happened. You can go to Twitter and find out what it is. But that is also what made Twitter kind of crazy at times, right?
Yeah, yeah.
but also incredibly useful. And Threads, because
Yeah.
it does not want to be known that way, essentially, like, right, like if there is a breaking news story in your town, Threads is the last place you're going to find out about it. You'll find out about it 18 hours later. So I thought that was really interesting. That maybe there's part of it is like they're essentially like the algorithm kind of puts things on ice for a while.
Yep. I mean, I think that's true. But then I think what's crazy about it is then it ends up being like somebody says something 3 days ago and you're resurrecting the conversation today. And it's just like this never ends. Like at least in Twitter, it's a flash in the pan, right? Like, you know, you just talk about it until the fire goes out. And then, you know, 30 minutes later, something else is going on.
If I can quote my favorite line from Jennifer Lopez in Out of Sight, it's, you wanted to tussle? We tussled.
Yeah, exactly. That is Jen's pinned tweet.
It's my pinned tweet,
everyone.
literally,
It's
right?
Hilarious.
But like in Threads, it's no like you wanted the slow sinking of the Titanic. Well, stay on board the Lido deck. Here we go.
Exactly. The string quartet is still fucking playing 3 days later. Anyway, point is that yesterday I saw a thread where somebody argued that I can't eat. I'm so mad about it. That the hallmark of mass market romance was that there were no B or C plots or complex, nuanced plots. And that romance, like basically it was like romance isn't really about complex B and C plots, especially mass market. Like you never see them in mass market. I don't know. That's not an exact quote, but it's close. I sent it to Jen. She's fact checking me.
Yeah.
And I got really mad, you guys. And I got mad for lots of reasons, not the least of which is like personally offended, considering I have like thought very carefully about how to spread like B and C plots through multiple books in a series. Like I've built myself a whole fucking world of people like that you could literally like dive into at any point in 20 books and access a world. And this person is like, oh, if the format is mass market, then. So to bring everybody up to speed, mass market is that small romance novel size. In case you're new and like you're not seeing them in bookstores, because you're probably not. There's trade paper, which is like the bigger paperback. And then there's a small paperback novel, like a historical novel that has like a clinch on the cover is usually in mass market. And mass market has been around for 50 years, and romance started in mass market because for lots of reasons, not the least of which is it was born out of pulp fiction, which was also that size, designed to be that size so that it could fit in the back pocket of somebody's jeans. And it translated into 400, 450, 500-page novels by women in the 70s and 80s that were romances that could be like tucked into a purse. So don't come listen, I know more, Jen and I together know more about the history of the format than most people. So anyway, I was upset about it and I texted it to Jen and I said, I think I'm upset about this. And she was like, this person is wrong. And then I went to bed and then I woke up and then I had a whole meeting this morning with my publicist, who's great. And I mentioned it on the meeting with her. And I was like, I deserve a medal for not saying anything. And then I hung up with my publicist. Sorry, Kristen. And I was like, nope, I have to say something. So I went on Threads and I think I was very measured.
And then I came in hot. It's fine.
And because I had seen someone else also like kind of pick that up and like say something about mass market or trade paper and like how hardcover books are more complex, like it's some sort of like stepping stone, like
right,
the
sure.
least complex is the small, like it's so stupid. I mean, I said nonsensical on the other thing, but it's like a real dumb way of looking at things, like that the small books must be small.
Right. Well, and I said that I thought it was offensive, right? Exactly. I think, well, because I think the thing is, and here's the thing, everybody, like our stance is always like, it is one thing to be fighting against outside forces about the value of romance or about like the wonderfulness of romance or about how much we love it and people on the outside don't understand. But when it is coming from inside the house, there is something almost more galling about it to me. Right.
Yes.
And that I think is kind of why it really, and I think this goes back to like sort of like people being like new to romance is, you know, romance has been around for a long time. And it's okay if you're new to it. And I don't even think there should be gatekeeping. Like one of the things that's really hard about like when you're just like first starting reading comics and you get to like those bros who are like, you don't know. Like I hate that. But at the same time, like when you're entering a space that has a storied past, right? And that past can be known to you and you're not even interested in it. And you're just going to say things that are like dismissive and wrong to the people that came before you. Like that is going to get me going and get you going. Right.
I mean, yeah, and obviously, partially it's personal to me, right? Like this is like you're suggesting that
Sarah,
like the books that I slog over, like and dwell on and think about every stupid, like the way the plots intersect are somehow less valuable because they're small paperbacks and not large paperbacks. Like,
come on. Yeah.
You're embarrassing us both. Like, this is an embarrassment. But then on top of it, it's like, you're talking to me about the genre of indigo, Beverly Jenkins' Indigo, Loretta Chase's Lord of Scoundrels. Like, what? What? Like,
I think if you stacked up every romance that was ever written, more of them have been in mass market than have been in any other format. And that will be the case for a long time because of time.
Yeah. Yeah. But, and like, not only obviously right now I'm hot about historicals in general. Like, historicals are naturally, by virtue of what they are, complex. Like, there are more subplots in historicals than there are in contemporaries because there have to be in order to understand the nuances of the worlds. But, like, we're talking about, like, Nobody's Baby But Mine or, like, the entirety of the IAD universe. Like, Tracy Livesey's Girls Trip series. Like, you're being stupid. So I didn't say you're being stupid online. But I will say that coming for mass markets as being somehow less complex or less skillful is never going to be cute to me.
No.
And I will always step in and protect the worth of
everyone that came before you,
women,
right? Yeah.
And men who built this house before us.
Yeah. I mean, that's like what we're committed to, literally, to saying these people who came before us matter. Romance doesn't start the minute you enter, right? This is not like, and that's, I think, the part.
Yeah. Tell me you haven't read a book published before 2020 without telling me.
Right. Right.
Mass markets are less complex. Fuck off. Anyway, that is...
You wanted to tussle? We tussled.
We tussled. So that is it. But we are going to do a fun thing today.
We are going to do a fun thing today.
Did you prepare?
No.
Yay.
Not at all.
I was hoping you wouldn't prepare. I didn't prepare either.
Just opened this.
Awesome.
Because I've been working. Everybody, I have had some editing projects pile up a little bit because things went a little sideways last week from what I thought was going to happen, which is fine. It was not a bad thing, but I got a little behind and was working today. And then Sarah's like, let's do this today. And I was like, yeah, that sounds great. And then she said, we can do it without preparing. And these are some of my favorite episodes because one, I start off thinking,
I'm very proud of us.
I've never read a book in my fucking life. And then number two is it's really fun. It's really fun to kind of be like, I don't know, listen, romance is unmatched. And I love just being like, yes, let's talk about it. I love it.
All right. So here's what we're doing. I love these reading challenges a whole lot. Like, I always see them go by on Instagram and I think to myself, oh, how fun. I'm going to do one of those. And I never do because I never do. But the Ripped Bodice this week, it is the week of June 15th, everyone.
That we're recording, yeah.
And this week, the Ripped Bodice announced its 8th annual Summer Romance Bingo. And if you have never played this, if you don't know, the Ripped Bodice is a romance-only bookstore that has brick and mortar stores in Culver City, California, right in LA, and in Brooklyn, in New York City. And the romance bingo is just like a cute little card. We'll look down at your screen. If you have a smart podcasting app, you'll see it right now. And each year they come up with, 20, I think it's 20. It is 19 romance spots, and tropes, micro tropes, things that, work or don't work. And what they do is they suggest that you read your books over the summer, you mark off the thing. I don't even know if you get a prize. You just...
It's knowing that you completed it.
It's just, yeah.
Right? It's like,
it's just a thing.
I think the thing that's fun is that a lot of people who do it will then post what they've read. So if you find other people doing it, you can sort of get rec from them. And I think the other thing is a lot of people have different strategies for how they tackle this. So a lot of people, for example, will say, okay, my first line of attack is going to be, do I have anything on my TBR? Right? Yep. That I can then elevate up to the batting, circle. Yep. Because I have been wanting to read this and I haven't gotten around to it, but now it's on on here. So yeah, I think that's one way that people do it. I think, again, just talking. And then some people will literally sort of say hey, you know what? I'm going to do this, but I'm going to do every single one with queer characters. I'm going to do every single one with BIPOC characters right. So people can also then add their own challenge, and it's bingo. So you only have to go across, but some people are I'm going to do all of them. I mean, who knows? So they are just really fun. I think they're really fun. And different people, different stores have them, but the Ripped Bodice one is always really cute.
It's true. So we thought we would go through them and make some recommendations as much as we could.
Yeah. And I think the other reason we are thinking this would be fun is we got a lot of really good feedback from folks about our summer reading, right? Our sort of, we really are leaning into discoverability so hard. And then Sarah's like, Jen, we're so dumb. We are discoverability for a lot of people. And so a random list of things that maybe we've talked about, maybe we haven't, also means that there could be some just fun discoverability for everybody. This week's episode of Fated Mates is brought to you by Blue Box Press, publishers of Brody by Aurora Rose Reynolds.
So this is a novella in Aurora Rose Reynolds' Until Her series, and this one is for everybody out there who loves a hockey romance, and I know you're all still out there. So Reese Shepherd, the heroine, who is really just a shy bookworm, she is completely caught off guard when one night some creep won't leave her alone, and the literally most beautiful man she has ever seen in her life steps in and pretends to be her boyfriend and solve the problem. And this
I love it.
My favorite setup. I'm so basic and I love it so much. Just put it directly into my veins.
Give me a knight in shining armor every time.
Yeah. So this knight in shining armor, she thinks he's just going to disappear because he did the business and that was that. But soon he's everywhere she is. And before she kind of can clock what's happening, he's around. They're spending all their free time together. They are bonding over all sorts of things that they have in common. And then boom, she discovers that he is a pro hockey player who is worth millions of dollars. And there is no effing way Reese Shepherd ends up with this guy. So to save herself all heartbreak, she puts him in the friend zone. But he is not going to stay there, Jen.
Listen, these sports guys, they go into whatever zone they want, Sarah. If you are interested in a friends to lovers sports romance with a reformed playboy who falls first, then Brody might be for you. It is available in print, ebook, and audio. And if your podcasting app supports it, you can tap on the chapter title right now to buy the book. Thank you to Blue Box Press and Aurora Rose Reynolds for sponsoring this week's episode.
So should we start?
Yeah.
All right, I'm pulling it up. I'm opening it up. So we're going to start at the top left corner.
Oh, we're going to go in order. Okay.
I mean, or we could go. We'll probably get to something where we've never read a book, and so we have to think. But let's start. Let's start at the top left corner.
Okay.
Love in a bookstore.
Love in a bookstore. I've never read a book, Sarah. Oh, are you going to talk about that Chloe Lease one?
No, I was not, but you could.
The latest book of the Bergman Brothers series, Only and Forever, has Viggo Bergman. He is planning to open a romance bookstore.
He is. He basically owns the Ripped Bodice, ironically.
And Tallulah is his heroine, and I think he basically hires her. I can't remember. Oh, I think that they like do a little bit of a swap, right? She's going to help him with things he needs at the bookstore, and he's going to help her with her writing the book. So, yeah, there you go. Love in a bookstore. Okay, Sarah, this is your fave. Bet/pact to find love.
A marriage pact is what I'm thinking of here, which is like if you haven't been married before a certain amount of time.
Sure, right.
Then, okay. I want to talk about One Last Shot by Betty Caillouette. I don't know if that's how you, I don't know if that's how you spell it, to be honest. Okay. One Last Shot by Betty Caillouette is, I think it's out now. Yes, it came out in May. And it's a romance about a supermodel and a photographer who, when they were teenagers, were like totally inseparable. And then when they like finally said to each other, like, oh, I have a crush on you. Oh, I was telling Eric the story. Not Eric. I was telling my daughter the story yesterday of this, my own high school experience with this, which ended the way they often do, which is in just complete heartache for me. But so they confessed their feelings, and then like it was a mess after that. And now the heroine is almost 28. Oh, but when they were in high school, they made a marriage pact.
Okay.
And so they basically were like, if we get to whatever age, I think it was 28, and they hadn't been married, they would marry each other. So she's almost 28, and she has had like a string of bad relationships, and she has like a calendar reminder that like they set up 10 years ago.
28 is so young, though.
I know.
What?
But when listen, they're also young enough that they could make a marriage pact calendar reminder, which is amazing to me. They had that. So the calendar reminder basically pings and is like, if you are not married yet, Theo.
Okay, that's actually pretty great, though.
Theo is you got to find Theo. Like, you agreed that you were going to get married. And so basically she convinces her agent to book her on a campaign that she knows Theo is shooting. And so they go off to Cinque Terre in Italy.
Sure. And
Theo's like not that happy to see her, honestly. But then they spend 4 days together, and boom.
That's it.
One Last Shot by Betty Caillouette.
Okay. Now, I'm going to tell you right now, the one that I don't have one for, and I don't even know one that exists, is Olympics for 2024.
2024 is hard.
It's hard. Now, I can think of previous books that are Olympics books, right?
Yes.
Or Olympic-style competitions, right? Do they just mean like in honor
I think they just mean Olympics, because I can come up with multiple Olympics books.
Yeah, because I was like, whoa, is that? I mean, I'm sure it probably exists, but it's probably like, I don't know, your fucking daddy is your swimming coach, and I don't know if I'm really wanting to read that. You know what I mean? Ugh.
No.
Because I think once you get athletes involved, yikes. So, the first one I ever remember is...
Are we talking about Olympics
Elizabeth
books?
Lowell. Yeah, do you remember that Elizabeth Lowell had an Olympics book called Summer Games? Now, it was an equestrian romance. And I believe that they have since changed the name of this book. I think it has a different name now. So I'll have to run that down. But she is an equestrian, and she's going to the Olympics for equestrian, which, by the way, when this book came out in 1988, I was like, what the fuck is equestrian? It was, I had like no idea. I'm like, no, it was never a horse girl for real. And the man she falls in love with, Cord Elliott, is like a bodyguard. Like, she's under some sort of threat, I think because of her family, because only rich people do equestrian, which was what that book taught me. So,
Sure.
And So yeah, that was that. But yeah, there was a lot of Olympics, like Love Swept really like leaned into the Olympics romance for sure.
So does it have to be Olympics? Because I have one of those, but I also have, I think we have to name check the Tamsin Parker series.
Oh yeah, sure. That Fire and Ice Games.
Okay, so
hot.
Snow and Ice games. There are 4, we think. I think there are 4, and each one of them is a winter. It's set against the Winter Olympics. I don't know if they're the official Olympics. I think she might have been.
No, she like had to come up with like a fake name. By the way, that Elizabeth Lowell book now is called Remember Summer. Everybody.
Oh no, the first one is Fire and Ice. And that one is, no, I'm sorry, book 4 is Fire and Ice, and that is FF. And that is a short track speed skater and a figure skater. And it's wildly hot.
Probably, I often tell people the hottest book I've ever read. Yeah, me too.
Yeah, it's the first one of the series that I read. And I think I read it because you told me to. And I was like, holy cannoli. And then I, read all of them. And I think it remains my favorite, but I also really like number 2, which is the skier.
There are 2 skiers, right? And one was younger. Yeah. One's younger and like new, and one is kind of
one is old, and that's my fave. Like a guy with a bum knee who's retiring, and the young upstart who's gonna take his place. Please, sold. So there's that one, but I also want to check Mariana Zapata's From Lukov with Love, which is sort of feels like everybody has read all the Mariana Zapata books, so I don't want to spend too much time on this. But this one, the heroine has been training as a figure skater forever and ever, and she finally gets her. She gets her chance at the end. Yeah. And the hero is her partner.
Another Love in a Bookstore one. Sarah, did you read A Novel Love Story? Didn't you like that one? Ashley Poston?
Yes. A Novel Love Story. Is that... Wait. Ashley Poston? That's an Olympics book?
No, I went back to Bookstore. Sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was like, that's not an Olympics book.
It'd be amazing if it was. Listen, if there was a fucking reading romance Olympics, done. Sign me up, coach. Okay.
I got all turned around, but yes, that is also in a bookstore.
Okay. I feel like, title, I'm like kind of looking at the top line though. Title includes a name, 800 million books. Do we even have to do that one?
Well, can you come up with a one that isn't like...
Romancing Mr. Bridgerton, you mean?
Exactly. Like something that people haven't
something people haven't read.
Of. I have one.
Okay, go ahead.
I think this is one of the best romance titles ever in like the history of romance. The Amorous Education of Celia Seton by Miranda Neville. It was the first, then this became like a popular conceit in historicals for like books to be titled this way. But Miranda, who is no longer with us, she wrote this book about, so the setup of this is that Celia has been kidnapped and is in a cottage in the middle of nowhere, and the kidnapper has to leave for some reason. And so he's and this is a cottage in the Regency, and so it's hard to lock things securely. So basically he says to her, take off all your clothes and then you won't escape, right? Because you'll be naked. And then, and so she comes out of, she leaves the house, basically naked. She's not fully naked. She's wearing a see-through shift thing. And there is an unconscious man outside of the cabin, Tarquin Compton. And he wakes up and he has amnesia. And so he has always kind of been terrible to her. In fact, he's part of the reason why she is so disgraced and no one is coming to save her from being kidnapped. And so she tells him his name is Terrence Fish, and that basically she tells him a bunch of lies about him, that no one really likes him and then he's never been very good with women.
My God, amazing.
she like basically like mentally tortures this poor man while they like walk through the middle of nowhere in England to try to get back to some semblance of town so that they can be saved from her kidnapper. And he remembers nothing. So Terrence Fish and Celia fall in love, and then Tarquin regains his memory, which is the best part of any amnesia book. And it's great. And Miranda Neville is great. And if you've never read her books, you should.
Okay, my funniest. Okay, this is a good one to do it. Okay, so I've talked about this book before, so I'll be brief. There is a male romance by R. Cooper called Hottie, Scotty, and Mr. Porter.
Sure.
Yes. And Hottie Scotty is, as described, Hottie, and he's hot, and everyone he's a fireman, and everyone just thinks like there's nothing behind that brain of his, and it's just like he's a sweet guy, and then he falls in love with like Mr. Porter, who's like a serious guy in town, who I don't even think maybe people know, or maybe his husband died. I can't quite remember, but and so it's like this real like. And of course, everyone in town is like, just like, what agog with like all the gossip about these two being together. So that's my favorite. Magical Academy. I feel like all I have to offer is Fourth Wing, and we've all read that already. So
yeah, that's fine. What else? Time travel?
Classic. Oh, wait,
we're planning on a time travel interstitial soon. So, like, maybe we just punt time travel because we're going to do a whole interstitial on good time travel books.
Well, or we can just mention books we've already mentioned recently, which is, like, I mentioned those old Teresa Medeiros books.
Yeah.
Right? One's called A Touch of Enchantment. One is called A Touch of Magic, I think. And in one, a woman comes forward in time and marries, like, an inventor, and they have a child. And then in her book, A Touch of Enchantment, she goes backwards in time. So maybe we'll just keep that one tight.
How about Outlander? Which, listen, the first Outlander is, Diana Gabaldon would like you not to think so, but the first Outlander is a straight up romance. So enjoy yourselves. This week's episode of Fated Mates is sponsored by Athon Books, publishers of Hannah Levin's The Treasured One.
So if you are looking for a great romantasy, Avery is a golden child. What that means is she has the magical ability to heal any illness or injury. And, it means she has a sheltered life because, like, basically that's her job, is just, like, waiting for, hopeful people that need her help to kind of appear. And everything seems fine until her powers go on the fritz. And now, all of a sudden, her government caretakers, all of a sudden, are kind of like, wait, maybe this isn't such a great deal for us. So, in search of answers, Avery travels through the rift to the realm of the Fae, and I will read any book where you travel to the realm of the Fae. And in this case, their prince, Riel, has motivations of his own for agreeing to train this woman to use this rare magic. As they work together, they are drawn to each other, and everybody can totally see what's going to happen, right? So there's a betrayal that essentially comes out of nowhere just as she comes into her powers, putting pressure on them. Can they find love, even though they have to maybe choose love or being loyal to their respective nations?
My money's on love. This is Hannah Levin's debut novel, and it will appeal to anyone who is new to romantasy. So if you've never read a romantasy before and you just want to figure out what all the fuss is about, this could be a great start. But it's also great for people who really loved the fantastic world building of A Deal with the Elf King or The Cruel Prince, or a sweet, slow burn romantasy like Grace Draven's Radiance. The Treasured One is available in print, ebook, audiobook, or with your monthly subscription to Kindle Unlimited. If your podcasting app supports it, you can click on the chapter title to be taken to buy the book right now. And thanks to Athon Books and Hannah Levin for sponsoring this week's episode.
Cover has an animal on it.
I was just about to say, Jen,
I was like, I don't know. I don't read those books, y'all.
Cover has an animal on it.
That's like a super highway to telling me I shouldn't read it. And there's been more different kinds of animals. It used to just be dogs and occasional cat, but like horses lately, I don't know.
Well, wait, Crazy Stupid Bromance, which is Alyssa K. Adams, part of the Bromance Book Club book, which is the Bromance Book Club series is very cute. The concept is very sweet, where a bunch of dudes. So in the first one, the
baseball
bromance
team.
Yeah. In the first one, the Bromance Book Club, that's the name of it. There's like a baseball player who's having trouble with his wife. And he's like, I don't know, she's not really into it anymore. And she's like talking about separating, and I don't know what's going to happen. And he gets together with his bros, and they all decide that like the way to saving their relationships is reading romance novels, which I can't disagree. It's not the worst idea I've ever heard.
Right.
And so like talk about this concept of like, the fantasy of men having friends. It's like the four, I think there are 4 of them. And they basically all get together and they read this historical romance that Lyssa Kay Adams has like put together. And it's very cute. But Crazy Stupid Bromance, which is book number 3, has a full-on cat.
Yeah.
On the cover. And I don't feel like you see a lot of cats.
You don't see a lot of cats. It's true.
I think you see dogs.
You see a lot of dogs.
Anyway, the main character, Alexis, runs a cat cafe called Toby.
It's very cute. Okay, that's actually fucking cute. God damn it.
And she came forward as a victim of a celebrity chef's sexual harassment. And she turns to her best friend, who is a computer genius. And basically, like, when she finds out that, like, essentially a woman who sees her like on the front page of some gossip rag is like, I'm pretty sure we're sisters, and she doesn't believe her, and so she turns to her computer like coder best friend Noah, who to help him, like for him to like help her figure out like if this woman's legit and what their story is. And so he does, and he's in love with her. It's friends to lovers, so your mileage may vary, but there is a giant cat on the cover.
It's true. I really have nothing to add to this category. It like drives me right away, but I support you all.
Wait, I feel like in some of those big old historicals with the painted with the painted covers, there was always like a horse in the distance. That's
Sometimes
about
there's like
as
a
much.
Fucking unicorn or like a whatever.
Yeah, those crazy ones with the unicorns.
Those crazy ones, like those old zebra romances.
Mm-hmm. Woo! I'm with you. All right, Jen. Diners, drive-ins, and dives. I feel like we can come up with lots of bar romances.
Yeah, diners is a good one.
Waitresses.
Waitresses. I mean, the Dive Bar series by Kylie Scott, right, has quite a few of those.
I always, when I talk about bars and romance novels, I feel like bars would be another good interstitial for us, because like I actually think bars play a really like interesting role in romance novels. But I always recommend Kathleen O'Reilly's Shaken Not Stirred, and the rest of that series is like
those
brothers.
Were old Harlequin Blazes, right?
These are old Blazes. Who even knows? I think you can still get them in ebook. Mm-hmm. But that one, Shaken Not Stirred, is about a waitress in a bar. Like she works in the bar and she's really super down on her luck. And then the owner of the bar, who's like, of course, sexy and dark haired and green eyed, he like offers to let her stay in his apartment, like while she's down on her luck. And then they just fuck all over the place because it's a Blaze, and R.I.P. Blazes, because they were the best.
Those really were the best. Yeah.
Oh, you know what's a really good one? Oh, I have another good one. Okay. Katie Porter, the Vegas Top Gun series, #1. So this is like Top Gun, but set in Las Vegas. And there are 5 books, and these are incredibly hot. And each one kind of like circles around a very particular kind of kink. So Cass, the heroine of this book, is a waitress at a like kind of like a old school Vegas diner, like where she has to like dress the part. And the hero, whose name is his code name is Fang.
Oh, shut up. That's honestly amazing.
Has a like absolutely unhinged role-playing kink. And like he sees the like seam of her stocking and like
Yeah, it's like game
basically
over for
like
him.
goes like rock hard under the table, and it's game over. And they like they go shopping for costumes, and there's like this very hot French maid scene. Anyway, it's great. It's called Double Down. It's so sexy. It's by Katie Porter, one half of whom is also no longer with us, unfortunately. So, supporting these authors and their families is good.
There's one I'm thinking of, and I'm not going to be able to find it because I read it on Kindle Unlimited, and it was a motorcycle club romance. I'm going to talk about it, and then I will figure out what this book is, and then I will put it in the photo array.
Mm-hmm.
Where she has like left town when she turned like 18 or 19, when she was pretty young, and she comes back because she essentially has inherited like this diner that her family owned. And getting back in with the like kind of avoids the local motorcycle club gang, even though they're kind of the people that raised her. This was her family, because as it turned out, she totally had the hots for like her dad's best friend. And so he is like, I cannot be with her even now that she's like in her, but it was like kind of, I would say like more dark romance adjacent.
Mm-hmm.
Once we find out why she left, it turns out that she was really taken advantage of by like once her dad died, some of the other motorcycle club members took advantage of her when they were supposed to protect her. And she ends up like, it ends up being like a really kind of like sad story about a real survivor. So I ended up really liking it, and I wanted to say it was by Amelia Shea because she's like one of my go-to MC romance people, but I'm not sure it is. So I'm gonna have to figure out what that one is. But it ends up being one of a series, and then like there's some other, but it's like more like a dark romance motorcycle club series than just like, right, there's some real hard things happening on page. So I'll find out the title. Sorry, everybody.
How about Lighthouses? I've got one that immediately comes to mind. Is the Chloe Main.
Chloe Main book?
That Chloe Main book.
It's honestly great.
All right. It's Christmas in July. Probably this is out in July. So if you are interested in celebrating Christmas in July in a private place, Santa's Baby is the book for you if you'd like to complete this lighthouse box.
Sure.
By Chloe Main. It's very short and very dirty. It's a little daddy. Actually, it's a lot daddy. Big age gap here. The heroine, whose name I don't know because the back cover copy is in first person, is like, I don't know, probably 19. And she's had the hots for her father's best friend, Ford, forever. And he keeps the lighthouse in town, but he also plays Santa. And she needs a Santa to come and like be Santa in the old folks' home where she works on Christmas Eve, because like the regular Santa can't get into town because of storms. So she goes up to convince him. And then the storm gets too difficult on Christmas Eve, and they can't get out of the lighthouse. And what are a girl and her dad's best friend to do? Anyway, he gives her a very nice Christmas gift, and then happily ever after.
It's hot. Yeah. I don't know if I have any other
lighthouse I am
ones.
certain that Jill Shalvis has written a lighthouse.
Sure.
I'm going to just do a quick... and I'm sure Nora Roberts has written a lighthouse. Like, this is also this is not just the domain of like kinky sex books. It's also the domain of like, nice contemporaries.
Nice contemporaries and kinky Santas.
Not only has Jill Shalvis written a lighthouse, it's literally called, oh no, wait, this isn't Jill Shalvis. Lori Wilde wrote a book called The Lighthouse on Moonglow Bay.
See, look at that.
And it's an inheritance book. Sisters who inherit and fall in love at the same time.
Amazing.
I wish I inherited a lighthouse. That sounds fun.
Does it though?
I don't know. It feels like it would be a lot of work.
I mean, I feel like my whole entire theory of like Like what you want is like a friend with a boat. You don't actually want to have to deal with a boat yourself.
No, I was once with somebody who told me, I was once with a friend who they did own a boat. They had owned a boat, past tense. And she was like, there are so many spiders. I was like, is that real? And so now you all know when you read these summer storms and and they talk about the fact there are so many spiders on the boat, you know why that is. Okay. How about drag, Jen?
Oh, so everybody, this is funny because I've been telling Sarah, like, we are constantly like, did you notice that there's like this pattern emerging? And I feel like there have been a lot of romances with a drag queen in them lately. And so,
yes.
And I think the first time I noticed it was I was actually at, and I'm not going to remember this title either. I'm afraid to say, and it's like a physical book, so I can't look it up in my my devices or whatever, my content list. I was at a Polycon, and I have talked about my strategy before. Like, I like to go up to a table where like there's no one, not that like they're sitting alone sad, but just like at that moment, there's no one when I walk by. And just sort of say like, hey, who are you? Like, what do you recommend? And I met a young guy who's writing male romance, and he wrote one of the characters was a drag queen. I was like, oh, okay. And then I picked up a book a couple months ago at the Ripped Bodice called Dragged to the Wedding by Andrew Gray, where James is going to a family wedding in Connecticut and ends up taking a date that is a drag queen. And then I think one of Chris Rice's books has maybe someone in drag. I couldn't remember, or like I was looking at like a blurb. Maybe it was one he was recommending on Thread. So Drag to the Wedding is kind of my one that I have there. And then I don't know if but yeah, all of a sudden I was like, oh, there's more characters in drag happening, which I think is cool.
That is very cool.
So everybody, all of a sudden, you're going to be like, oh, wait, there are a lot of them. This week's episode of Fated Mates is brought to you by Tara Rowe, author of Hope, the third book in the Love and Disaster trilogy.
Jen, this one is going to put you through the ringer.
Oh, I love it.
Listen, Celeste and Josh were fated mates. They were the ones for each other. And Celeste made a name for herself in large part because she had this kind of remarkable relationship as a relationship coach in California. And she's sort of the premier relationship coach in California. Really has helped a lot of couples get through a lot of stuff. What kind of throws her life into chaos is when she arrives home one day and discovers that Josh has been unfaithful and has been cheating. She immediately ends their relationship. She is really devastated by what's happened. And it's really thrown her whole identity into chaos, not just her personal identity, but her professional identity as well. So Celeste decides that she's going to take herself off and she is going to move into the mountains and find herself again and really take time for herself. What ends up happening, though, is Josh realizes that when she's gone, he is a wreck without her. He starts to take a good, hard look at his life, realizes that he has turned to drugs, he's turned to alcohol, he has a group of friends who are not friends at all. He's having sex all the time, like indiscriminately, and he knows that if he ever has a chance to get Celeste back, which is all he wants, he has got to get himself together, he's got to get himself straight, and he's got to make himself into the man that she deserves.
So, can true love bring Josh and Celeste back together? Well, you're going to find out. And if you crave a long, delicious grovel and really want to explore how love can rise from the ashes of infidelity, then this is the book for you. Also, I want to highlight that this book has an environmental theme. Josh's job is really tied to sort of environmental causes and wildfires and other things that sort of are part of our new our new world.
The idea of an environmentally themed romance is something really interesting to me. I don't think that many people are doing this. And so I'm excited to see this one.
Yeah. So if your podcast app supports it, you can tap on the chapter title right now to buy the book. Thank you to Tara L. Roy for sponsoring this week's episode.
Okay. Astrology. I got one.
Oh, you better.
Okay. So it's new. It's very, very fresh. And I bought it the other day at the Ripped Bodice. So Susie Dumond, I hope that's pronounced correctly, but Susie Dumond's Looking for a Sign has such a cute setup.
That's a cute title. Yeah.
Okay. So so the heroine, Gray, is identified on the back cover as an optimistic lesbian Aries.
Oh my God, I love it.
Has just had a breakup with her long-term partner. It was very dramatic. And she is now in New Orleans looking for a new job. Or she's now in New Orleans because she has a new job. And she wants to meet somebody and she wants to build a family. And she is like, I'm turning 29. And when you turn 29, your the Saturn returns, meaning like, and Saturn is a very challenging planet, but like it takes 29 years for Saturn to like come back to the place where it was when you're born. And it's why like we talk about like quarter life crises, like this kind of like the 28, 29, 30 period of time is very complex for a lot of people. And in astrology, this is because this is your Saturn return. And so she and her best friend, Cherry, decide that they are going to that Gray is going to go on a date with someone from each zodiac sign to test their compatibility.
That's
and,
cute.
Like get it all sorted out before her 29th birthday when Saturn, officially returns. And so she has 12 zodiac signs, 6 weeks, and one shot at finding the one. And it sounds really adorable.
That is really cute. I love it.
Yeah.
Didn't we have a whole series that we talked about where it was like a zodiac series? Like
there is a historical series. And now that you have said that, you have pushed the name of the author right out of my head. Hang on.
Okay, while you look
Jennifer. The pressure of a name.
Oh, amazing.
Cinderfuckingrella.
I mean, exactly. Exactly.
That's a deep cut, everybody. Yes, Jenny Brown. See? I got there. Jenny Brown. That series begins. So that it was supposed to be 12 books, but it is not. It is only 3 books. And each book, the match is Jenny was an astrologer, or is presumably still an astrologer. She no longer writes romances, though, I don't think. And so what she did is she was writing 12. The plan was to write 12 books about like the perfect match. So in each one, there is a horoscope involved. So the first one, Lord Lightning, which I remember being very sexy. The heroine is an astrologer and she is making predictions. She finds out that like the hero, who is like a full-on rake. Listen, if you are looking for a true rake, she finds out that she does the chart of the hero, and she discovers that he is her soulmate. She believes she is her soulmate.
Nice.
Because of their charts. And she tells him, and his mistress like buys into it and like takes off. And it's really great. So, and he's like, what on earth? Like, I lost my mistress because of this. So now you have to be my mistress. Nice. And he's just joking. But she's like, all right. Yeah. All right. That sounds fine.
I was going to add, the Zodiac Cove series. And it's 6 books. And so 2 of the signs like fall in love in each book. And the Zodiac Cove is like, there's been a curse on essentially that is preventing their island from sinking into the sea. But then in the first book, I think like a witch accidentally like undoes the curse. And now they have to like, the zodiac signs have to get together to like reinstate the way that they're going to like save their home or whatever. So the first book is called A Touch Magical, like A Touch Charmed, A Touch Enchanted. And the author's name is Sonia Hartle, and they're on Kindle Unlimited. So those are fun. Yeah. Okay. I's and G Motorcycles. That's going to be all me.
Yep.
Everyone.
Have at it.
If you are looking for like the OG Motorcycle Club romances, they are by Joanna Wild. It's called The Reapers Motorcycle Club. They're really good. My favorite Motorcycle Club romance by Theodora Taylor is called Waylon. It's great. This is probably, if I was going to just like recommend one where you're like going to open it and just be like sucked right into the story. And her books, I think, are all like heroine only point of view.
Mm-hmm.
And in Waylon, it starts off with, she's a nurse and she grew up in foster care with her brother who is in a gang. And so he uses her as like their like street doctor, essentially. You know what I mean? I don't know. So if one of his guys is in trouble, they call her in and she comes in and like kind of does some like the medical work, essentially kind of off the books. And it turns out that there's this like motorcycle club member and her brother's like, I don't want anything to do with this guy, like, whatever. So she's like, you can't leave him. I have to save him. And Waylon is this guy and he ends up at her house and, she like handcuffs him to her bed because she's like going to work every day. And listen, this book is just fucking great because he literally like wakes up as she's about to work on him and like sort of grabs her. You know what I mean? And like they make eye contact and she's like, you have to lay down. I'm going to help you. And it is like he is gone for her from that moment, like just like waking up from like death and seeing her. It's really great. And then at one point she like comes back and he's like not in the bed, like handcuffs to the bed. And he comes back in and he's like, don't worry about it. I had some things I had to do, and comes back in and like cuffs himself back up because he wants her to feel safe.
Oh, what a cutie.
Yeah. And then they have a lot of really hot sex and, it's all great. So Waylon. And then I've mentioned many times that I really like the Ghost Town East series by Amelia Shea, which I think is also really good. So motorcycles, there you go. Boom.
Perfect. Cursed Love. How about Cursed Love?
The newest Rosie Dannon is called Do Your Worst. And it is the heroine's name is Riley. And she is a curse breaker. And she has been hired by the family of this like Scottish castle to break the curse on the castle because they want to like, I don't know, like basically turn it into like a, like a tourist trap. And the hero is Clark, and he is an archaeologist, and they've hired him to essentially like, I don't know, like clear the land, make sure there's no, like nothing in the land that would prevent them from like doing this, right? Turning it into a tourist trap. And so he doesn't really believe in curses and thinks that like her very presence is going to like ruin. He's on a bit of a redemption tour himself. Because of like, he was found to have some like faked artifacts. He didn't really know where they came from. And you like discover this throughout the book that he was actually a good guy. But the two of them together discover that this place is in fact cursed. And of course, Sarah, I'm not sure that you could have predicted this, but only true love can break this fucking thing. So
of course,
that is Do Your Worst by Rosie Dannon.
Okay, I've got one. Sophie Jordan's This Scott of Mine, which is one of her Rogue Files books, is about a laird who is under the thrall of a true Scottish witch curse for like multiple generations, like 10 generations. All lairds of the Clan MacLaren have lived out their days knowing they are doomed to love but not to live.
Ugh,
and
I love it.
And when this book begins with the curse, which is exactly how I want a cursed Scotsman, a cursed grumpy Scotsman to I want it to begin with the curse. Anyway, until a laird of the McLaren line lives to see his firstborn draw breath, the curse shall not be broken. And so basically, like, this guy's like, all right, well, I can never fall in love because that's how I'm going to evade the curse. Except guess what happens, Jen? He flat out falls in love. And then
I would hope so.
And then will the curse get him? Who can say?
Who can't say? I can say.
The curse will find him.
Okay. Yeah, that's good. That's a fun one. I love it when they're cursed, right?
Yeah, that's how it should be. They're cursed.
Yeah. In my case, they were breaking the curse, but
Yeah.
Amusement Park Carnival. I feel like all I really want to ever do is talk about Kiss an Angel by the great Susan Elizabeth Phillips. She's Romanov. He's Romanov.
But I have one. I have another one.
You have another one?
I am actually doing an event with Betty Corello this week at the Ripped Bodice. So it's long after. It's not this week, everyone. It's past. In the past. Get a time. If you need to time travel, head back to the week of June 17th. And on June 19th, I did an event with Betty Corello at the Ripped Bodice. Her book is called Summertime Punchline. She is a debut author. This is out now this summer. And it's a very cute book. And she's from the Jersey Shore, I assume, because this book is all about the Jersey Shore and the like carnival, the sort of like the what's it called, the boardwalk carnival of the Jersey Shore. And it's a classic setup. The heroine she gets this like big break. She's about to be brought to Vancouver to like be featured in a comedy festival. She thinks she's on top of the world. She quits her job because she's like, I'm going to be on top of the world. She goes home to see her boyfriend to tell her boyfriend that all of this great stuff has happened. She walks in and she finds him absolutely boning her roommate. Terrible.
No.
So she leaves in a fit of shame because she absolutely can't go back. But she has no choice but to go home. And her entire comedy set, the whole set that she was intending to give in Vancouver, was all about him and their relationship. And so she's like, I can't tell these jokes anymore. So she goes home where her like high school enemy owns a bar that has an open mic night. And she has to rework an entire set in like however many weeks before she goes off to Vancouver to become a star in his like dingy bar. Oh, this also works for dive bars.
For a dive bar.
For dive bars. And so they come to a truce. He has grown up and is extraordinarily handsome now. And she has to try and remember that she hates him.
Wild Ride by Jenny Cruzy and Bob Mayer. Remember that one?
Oh, yeah, sure.
She inherits or is restoring or something at an amusement park that actually has a prison for some trapped demons. And so she, has to figure that all out. So that one's kind of those books that are Jenny Cruzy and Bob Mayer are often like romance. There's a romance subplot, but it's not like often it's kind of romance adjacent.
Sure.
Wild Ride was that one. Okay.
How about Lost Treasure?
Lost Treasure.
What is
Okay, let's go with the low-hanging fruit of that Christina Lauren book.
Oh,
Something Wilder.
That's a perfect one. Something
Right?
Wilder.
Something Wilder, which is her she ran like sort of an outdoor company with her dad,
like a treasure tour.
Yeah, because her dad was like obsessed with
Follow the Butch Cassidy and
yeah.
Sundance Kid journey.
Yeah,
it's very cute. It's
great.
actually it might be my favorite Christina Lauren of the last few years. Like I really loved that book.
Yeah, me too.
Because it's like this big rollicking like road trippy.
Yeah,
like,
I mean it had all
the
of
desert.
It had
it's
all
so fun.
It has all of the adventure of like romancing the stone and all those like types of, with like a literal treasure that they are on the hunt for afterwards. So yeah, that's really fun. It's really, really fun. And coming up is Romancing Miss Stone. Remember, I talked about this on the summer reads.
Oh, yeah.
This is the one where he goes to find his fiance who has dumped him via text and hires an outdoor guide, Alexander Stone, and jungle expert to help her. And so I'm not sure if there's lost treasure, but maybe the treasure is love. It has her driving a motorcycle on the front, so it could also go for motorcycles.
One of my very favorite covers of the last year is Raiders of the Lost Heart.
Yes.
And so this one is like an archaeologist, Dr. Socorro Mejia, Corey for short, has spent her entire life aiming to do an expedition deep into the Mexican jungle to find the lost remains of her ancestor, an ancient warrior of the Aztec Empire. And she has to team up with basically her, quote, disgustingly handsome nemesis, Dr. Ford Matthews, because he is the expert on this particular character, this particular warrior. And they have to there are booby traps and artifact smugglers and the government of Mexico and people chasing them. And it's a big adventure story, and they're after it. So maybe it's not lost treasure, although I think there probably is treasure in the mix. But it's going to give you that Indiana Jones feel.
Yeah. Okay.
And the new book is called Temple of Swoon, which is very cute. That is a very cute title.
That's a good title.
Anyway.
Okay. Art gallery. I'm going to talk about The Red by Tiffany Rice, which is, I don't know if you guys have read this. I really love this book. I will admit that the Tiffany Rice books that are all about the priests and stuff never really worked for me because I don't really do priests. But in this series, The Red, a woman essentially inherits her mother's art gallery, and she promises to keep it afloat, right? But then just when but it's going to be really impossible to do. But a mysterious man comes in after closing time and essentially makes her this offer, which is I will keep this afloat if you kind of submit to me for a year. So once a month he shows up and they have really crazy sex, just really inventive. And it they can there's some magic involved. They fall into paintings and you know what I mean? All this stuff happens. And, it's a true erotic romance. It is terrific. And it really the world of the art gallery itself is such a huge part of the story that if you are looking for that, it's amazing. I loved it.
Yeah, I don't have an art gallery one. I'm sure I do, but
I mean, that old, back to Jenny Cruzy, there's that old one, Faking It, where they own an art gallery where they sell fakes.
Oh, yeah.
Right. That's a good one. I feel I have one in my brain that's more recent.
There's
but I
one
can't
more recent that
there.
we've talked about on the podcast recently where there's a painting in a gallery. She works in a gallery, maybe. I can't remember. Anyway.
Yeah. Oh, well.
Some of these are just obvious ones. Grumpy Sunshine, You won't have any trouble with. But Daddy, I love him. That's going to be, I mean, if you and I are in charge, that's all going to be my dad's best friend.
Sure. I mean, yeah.
Listen, the one that really installed my buttons on But Daddy, I loved him was that old Sandra Brown. Which I know we've talked about before, called Beyond. No. Hang on one second. Crap. It's Sandra Brown has written 12 million books.
I know. I was good luck.
Here. You can't quickly find a Sandra Brown novel.
No.
Anyway,
you guys,
But Daddy, I loved him.
In case you're wondering, Jennifer, did you know until right now that this was the name of a Taylor Swift song? I did not. Sorry, everybody. Apparently,
But Daddy, I love him. Oh,
it's the name of his Taylor Swift
I didn't
song
either. But I mean,
the tortured
Oh, well, I'm
Poets
sorry.
department.
So I don't know. We can't help with that.
Yeah, I don't know. Is this so? Now I'm confused. I was like, is it really But Daddy I Love Him? Is this supposed to be Taylor
Or is it
Swift
just
romance?
like Taylor Swift romance? Because we can there are definitely a lot of those. So.
Yeah, I don't approve of them though, because I don't really RPF everybody. So we're gonna have to take
That's
a pass
fine.
on that. Sorry.
Dragons is on here. I mean, for us, it's Thea Harrison's Dragonbound Forever and Ever, but Sophie Jordan has a brand new dragon book coming out at the end of September called Fire in the Sky, and it is really fun. A huge, huge romantasy world. The heroine and the hero both discover they are dragons over the course of this book, in a time when dragons have been hunted to what humans believe is extinction. So she's a fire breather. He does this cool thing called shading, where he can like create a mist around them, or like help people to forget, like convince humans to forget that they don't exist. But also there's this very hot moment where they're fucking and people come upon them, and he shades the whole like place where they are so no one can see them, and they continue to fuck. It's right up your alley, Jen.
That's the alley where I recycle my LaCroix cans for sure. Amazing. That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, I feel like Dragonbound.
We didn't do duels, but I wrote one of those.
You sure did. 9 Rules to Rake. And we had a whole duels episode.
We did.
With Chels. And what's fun about that is they are a super huge fan of all things dueling and came up with Chels. They had really like cool old school recommendations, right? So if you're like really looking for dueling romances that are, you know, like real deep cuts, then go to our dueling page and look for those.
Yep.
Pen Pals.
You know what one I love? I love that Charlotte Stein and Kara McKenna book called Way Down Deep.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And they are text messaging to each other. He sends a text to like a number and he doesn't expect a reply.
Mm-hmm.
And it's her number.
Yeah.
And she like kind of senses that he's in a place where he needs her. And so they text for like a long time, like months.
Yeah.
And then they like fall in love with each other. And then, yeah, it's great. It's completely epistolary. The book it is entirely epistolary.
Yeah, which is fun. Those can be really fun.
I love an epistolary novel.
I love, God, what's the name of that one where she sends off a letter to a generic military man?
Are you talking about Simone Stark?
I am talking about Simone Stark.
A lot of people like her.
Yeah, it's fucking great. It's
called Written on His Skin.
There you go. And yeah, it's awesome. So she is like participating in one of these, like just write a letter to a serviceman, and he gets this letter, and immediately it just like upon contact is like, this is the woman for me.
This is mega insta-love. Everyone, is not for you if insta-love is not for you.
But it's great. And then he shows up at her house, and in fact, they are for each other. She tries to break up with him via letter, and he is basically like, no, nope. I shall leave the military and come to find you. And that's totally how all that stuff works. And it was great.
That's science.
That is romance law, like a special subset.
Romance military law.
Yeah, that one's great. That's a great one, too. Okay.
I would like to know if Erin from Heaving Bosoms has feelings about whether or not going AWOL for love.
You know, I believe that there was some sort of he was about to get out anyway, whatever. He is not actually AWOL, everybody. A romance hero would never. Love lettering, of course, by the great Kay Claiborne. Although they write some letters back and forth, and at the end there's a whole like letter where he describes like, you know, what he was been up to.
Love in the Afternoon by Lisa Kleypas, which is a Cyrano book. She writes letters for her very, very mid friend, I gotta say, who is he goes off to war with the sort of understanding that this friend and he will marry when he gets back. And the friend is like, la-di-da, these letters that he's sending are kind of glum. And then the heroine, who is Beatrix of the Hathaways, sends him letters on her behalf, and they fall in love that way. Oh, and when he gets back and he finds out, like the second he speaks to Beatrix, he's like, "Oh, it was you,
it's you all along."
So mad that she lied to him and would have let him marry this other woman.
Yeah.
Perfect.
A newer rom-com is The Neighbor Favor by Christina Forrest. It's like emails. So she is a librarian and he is a fantasy author, and she writes him some emails. I think it's like for like a work thing at first, and they essentially end up writing back and forth, and then he ghosts her, and it's not until sometime later, I think like the next year or like the next season, that she's looking for a date for her sister's wedding, and ends up asking her new neighbor, who of course ends up being this guy who wrote her all these letters and was her pen pal. So, and because it's emails, there's nothing creepy about it. It's not like he knew her actual address, everybody, and then like moved in next door. See what I'm saying there? Okay. So, that is another one that is all starts with some lettering. Okay. All right. What we have left, Sarah, is we have
We did Runaway Brides. We did an episode on Runaway Brides this season, end of last season.
Yeah, we had a whole
So you can go check that out. There are lots of them in there.
We have 3 left, and I'm going to tell you one right now. I'm not going to come up with it. It's too hyper specific, which is Protagonist Smells Like Home.
Well, that's difficult because it feels like that's a thing.
Right. They say so deep
like
into the book.
It happens often.
Yeah.
So that you're just going to have to suss it out as you go.
Yeah. And then
this
Grumpy
is just an excuse
Sunshine.
to read a lot of them.
Yeah. Did we do Grumpy Sunshine? I feel like we must have. I feel like that's so common that I can't even.
We did. It was episode 48 of season 5.
Okay. So pretty recently.
So you can look there. Oh, Scotty right there at the top. Just Scotty. And also, listen, that whole series, the VIP series, because Fall also falls into that category of Grumpy Sunshine. Literally, the heroine of Fall is a professional friend.
Yeah.
Like, people can hire her as, like, a friendly companion for, like, coffee or whatever and pay her to just be their friend, which is sad and sort of whatever. But she's very, very sunshiny.
Yeah. And then the last one we have is Fish Out of Water. And again, I feel like that's so common. And I'm not saying that in a mean way. Like, that's like you move to a new town. You know what I mean? Like, bam, you're a fish out of water, right? Like, you're trying to figure it out. I will say, historical wise, one of my favorite people, like, I think Julie Garwood deployed the fish out of water trope a lot because
in the historicals,
these British girls are like, getting taken to Scotland by handsome lairds, and they have to, and there's like a lot of like, she actually really leaned into the trope a lot. Now that I think about it, a lot of my favorite Garwoods are fish out of water. In fact, I was laughing the other day because I was editing a book where they were on a ship. And there's a fire on the ship in this book I was editing. And it really made me think of one of my favorite parts of The Gift is she actually makes a fire in his cabin in like the hearth. And he comes down and he's like, that's not a hearth. And she's like, what do you mean it's not a? And she's like, oh shit. Anyway, that's The Gift. But like, yeah, every single Julie Garwood book is these, women being taken to Scotland or wherever
to just wreak chaos. They're basically instruments of war.
Yeah, exactly. And, and it's great.
They don't know it. No one knows it, but I think it was just like sneaky English planning.
Yes, exactly.
Send these chaos monsters.
Right. So it's funny when you think of that as being like a core story. You know what I mean?
Yeah. How about, I know I talk about this book all the time, so again, I won't spend a lot of time on it, but like a really interesting, I guess what we would call like kind of reverse fish out of water. Is that a thing? Is Angelina M. Lopez's After Hour on Milagro Street, because she is from that community, but when she returns to it, she feels just like completely out of place.
Yeah.
It's like a really interesting twist on that as a genre, as like a concept.
Right.
I guess anybody who kind of comes home from,
Yeah, right.
like, has to come home in disgrace in some way.
Right.
Like Sugar Beth in Ain't She Sweet.
Yeah. Well, and I thought, you know what I thought would be like interesting is to like, sometimes with these, it's like, what have I read recently? So I thought I would look at like, again, sort of my content. They used to call it my content and devices. Now it's called my content library. And see if I was thinking about anything, like what's the first kind of fish out of watery one that I read that I haven't like mentioned on the podcast. Let's see. Oh, I bought a bunch of books lately because they've been on sale and I haven't read them yet. That's what this is telling me.
I'm like swamped with things.
All right. Well, I think we did it, Sarah.
Is that everybody?
Eric's
going to be like, this is 12 million hours long. Oh, no, it's not. It's only an hour and 20 minutes. Look at that.
Yeah. And you know
just enough time for me to be cranky and then for us to recommend some books.
Listen, I think that's nice.
Everyone got what they paid for here.
Everyone got what they paid for here. This podcast is free. Can I tell you? Okay, I'm going to recommend something before we go. Nisha just texted me and reminded me that like Mr. Reed's Romance and I watched this documentary the other night called Brats about the Brat Pack.
About the Brat Pack. Yep.
And I like kind of got tired of Andrew McCarthy belly aching halfway through. Is that his name? Andrew McCarthy?
Yes.
Like, boo fucking who? Somebody called you a brat and it let you ruin your whole life. And then I saw a lot of people being like, this man could have just gone to therapy. But it actually was really...
And also, like, Andrew McCarthy, you got laid plenty.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
Plenty after that, so...
Yeah. It was actually really interesting, though, just in terms of, like, revisiting some of those, like, movies that we really loved. The other thing is that I was... up one night because changing my medicine, so I couldn't sleep, and I was watching Footloose, and Little Romance walked by, and he was like, "What's this?" And I was like,
"Talk
it's
about
Footloose.
Fish out of water."
Exactly. That's what made me think of it. And I was telling him the plot of the story, and then I realized I was like, "This whole movie is basically like a big long promposal." Like, nice. He was just like, "Listen, I really want to take this pretty girl dancing, and there is no prom, so my promposal is inventing prom for these people."
Amazing.
Yeah, it was great. But Little Romance was mostly fascinated by how young Sarah Jessica Parker was. And I was like, yeah, she was like...
That is what happens. People do, in fact, age.
Yes.
So sorry, exactly. But that's real.
So anyway, that was a real fish out of water, though. So Ren McCormick.
Ren. And also Flashdance, because she is both a dancer and a welder.
Flashdance, though, I will say, because I've watched this in the past few years too, is really not any kind of story. Like, it really is like, it's just like loosely interlinked music videos. Whereas, dumb as it may be, Flashdance, Footloose has like, I have a plot. Yeah. Promposal.
Yeah. You know what movie I was thinking that we should watch with the team? With the Faded Mates team, maybe we should do this with the Discord. We've talked about doing this with the Discord, and maybe we should, or like with the Patreon subscribers. Is I would like to get back to Mystic Pizza because Eric hasn't seen it, and I think that's a tragedy. But also, that movie, I think about that movie a lot, probably more than I should, and I did think about it today because Lighthouses. And you remember like Phoebe Cates, like with her babies, she babysits for that girl and like she and that dad get it on. Terrible. Not okay. But they do it in a lighthouse and it's presented as hot.
Here's the other thing I would say is like watching Footloose. I was like, these teenagers in the 80s had better sex lives than like grown adults do in movies now.
1000%.
You know? I'm not saying it was good.
Well, Mystic Pizza, but all of them are boning all the time.
All the time.
That one girl with Vincent D'Onofrio.
All the time.
And then, yeah, there's like a whole class warfare situation with Julia Roberts.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, there was just like, they were like, yeah, teenagers actually, come on, you know. The one other thing, though, that I was thinking about, though, is as I was watching Footloose, is how funny is it? I'd forgotten that he was from Chicago. And so and in my head, he moves to like Iowa, but it is clearly not being filmed in Iowa.
The Illinois sticks?
No, it's got to be like in reality, it's got to be the Mountain West. I mean, there's like a whole part where there's like majestic peaks, with the whole tractor scene.
Well, then where the heck is he going? Where are there majestic peaks and tractors?
I don't know. I listen, I couldn't tell you. I think there was some confusion. So anyway.
About
there was some setting confusion, everybody.
The American landscape. I can't think of a place where there are both tractors and majestic peaks. I guess California.
Sure.
The Central Valley of California.
Sure. Anyway, so I've been revisiting some of my favorite movies of my youth in my insomnia hours.
I was thinking that we here in our house need to watch A League of Their Own together. I feel like that's a good movie for this age that we're at here.
Oh yeah. There you go. Have you ever guys watched that one with Anna Paquin and the geese? I love that movie for kids this age. It's called Fly Away Home.
Fly Away Home.
It's really good.
Okay, so the Footloose film scene is Beaumont.
Yeah, but it doesn't have a state,
the
right?
southwestern United States. So it's like it's got to be right around the Rockies. You're right.
Yeah. Well, here's the other horrifying thing. Halfway through watching
Utah. It's Utah. Beaumont, Utah.
Halfway through watching it, Diane Wiest, who plays the mom, is like, I've been a pastor's wife now for 20 years. And I was like, oh, shit. How old are these people? And they were like in their late 30s when they filmed it. And I was like, I'm older now.
Mm-hmm. Oh, every time I watch When Harry Met Sally and she says, and I'm going to be 40 in 8 years.
You're like, fuck
Shut
you.
up, Meg Ryan. I'm now reading about Footloose. Did you know that they remade it in 2011?
I only know this because when I went to go look for it on Comcast, right, and you say Footloose.
This looks terrible. I don't recognize the names of any of these people.
I can't imagine that was very good.
Penny Wormald.
It's a movie about a promposal. How good could a remake be?
The dad is Dennis Quaid, so that's a stinker for me. I'm never watching that. Have we talked about how sad I am about Dennis Quaid being ruined from ruining all Inner Space and
what did he do?
Movie? Oh, he's like a super Trumper.
No. Ew.
He was like, he was quoted as saying, like, a lot of people think that Trump is a lunatic, but he's my lunatic.
Yikes. The other thing that was really wild, though, in this movie, in Footloose, is, and I'd forgotten, there was a whole scene where his congregants are burning books. And he is the cool, calm, collected, like, no, we shouldn't be burning books. Like, we have to find, what's in our hearts or whatever. And I was like, this motherfucker would be right up there with the blowtorch these days, right? So I thought that was also, I was like...
It's like watching West Wing, like, measured Republicans. Like, it's tricky now. Anyway, we're getting into it. Eric's going to probably take all this out, which is
fine. Let's get out of it.
I'm Sarah McLean. I'm here with my friend Jen Prokop. We are Fated Mates. You can listen to us absolutely every Wednesday, except for Wednesday, July 3rd, in your ear holes on whatever podcasting app you listen to. If you pick a smart podcasting app, there are images and chapter titles and all sorts of fun things. So check that out. You can find us at Fated Mates. Head over there to read the show notes and see a full gallery of all of the books that we talk about every week. Please support our sponsors who show up every week to support us. And find us on Instagram at Fated Mates Pod, on Twitter at Fated Mates, and all the other places at the logical Fated Matesy combo. We'll see you next week.